Hi gang, Rob here. It's the afternoon of 21 March 2020. We're on lockdown, self-quarantine, social distancing protocol, whatever you want to call it. And got a new watch a few weeks ago. And I thought it was time to bring you guys along, do a little review. What is it we're talking about today? Well, here it is. That, my friends, is the Hamilton Khaki field mechanical hand wind 38 millimeter. Yeah, what a beauty. What a great little daily wear watch. Anyway, before we flip the camera around and show you the watch close up, just want to give you a little history of Hamilton Watch Company and me and Hamilton Watch Company. When I was a kid, growing up in the 70s, just think of the time. Okay, this is after Elvis wore a Hamilton Ventura, and everybody was watching. This is after Hamilton invented the first electric watch. This is after Hamilton, by way of newly acquired Buren Watch Company in Switzerland, introduced the micro rotor wound thin-o-matic. They made a lot of watches, and they made a lot of high quality, expensive watches. I'm not talking Omega, Rolex, Patek expensive, but a notch above the average Bulova Benrus Gruen. These were watches for executives. So I remember my dad buying a Hamilton watch when he got a promotion, and Hamilton was kind of famous for, they were famous for making not fashion watches, stylish watches. They set style trends for most of the 20th century. They weren't necessarily always noted for their high horology. Some people were frustrated with timekeeping ability of Hamilton watches, especially if you owned a Hamilton Electric. They weren't quartz watches. They weren't Accutrons. They were bad. They were battery-powered manual movements, and they sucked. But people still wanted them. They were still cool. People wanted Elvis's Ventura, whether it ran or not. So who are these folks, Hamilton? This is a watch company that was founded in 1892 in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. They released their first 17-jewel pocket watch in 1893. Big deal for Hamilton was in 1917, and you guys know the story, you watch nerds do, of why we have railroad watches. Does anybody know? It's an interesting story. The reason we have railroad watches is because if trains were timed properly, they wouldn't run into each other at crossings. If they were timed properly. So after a rash of train crashes and derailments, railroad companies started to seek out precision timepieces for their railroad crews to wear, so trains didn't crash into each other. Hamilton made one of those. It was called the Broadway Limited Railroad Watch, 1917 it came out. And because of that model and its use by the railroad and its success, their marketing slogan became railroad accuracy. Yeah. That Broadway Limited Railroad watch also sort of was adapted to military service in World War I. So the first Hamilton field watch essentially was the Broadway Limited. And they would go on to supply field watches to the military, clear up through Vietnam. I don't know, maybe today. Don't know for sure. But definitely clear up through Vietnam. This watch that we're talking about today is based on the Vietnam era Hamilton field watch. So through the years, Hamilton was a monster for buying up watch companies. In their early days, they bought up the Aurora Watch Company, which was right next door to their plant. Then they bought the Illinois watch company much later, I think in the 50s. And then they even survived a hostile takeover in 1951 by Benrus. Then the big one, at least in my lifetime, in 1966, they bought the Swiss watch company Buren. We talked about that already. We talked about them making the first electric watch that was called the Hamilton Electric 500 movement, and it was released in 1957, and it was the movement inside that iconic timepiece worn by Elvis Presley, the Ventura. Then as Hamilton's electric watch technology progressed, they entered a joint venture with Ricoh Corporation and moved all electric watch production to Japan. Seiko at the time was already working on electric battery-powered quartz technology. They were a giant. They squashed the Ricoh Hamilton venture like a bug. The Hamilton Electric wasn't going to be competitive anyway, and it didn't sell. It didn't sell as well as production went. They had a lot of leftover watches, probably got destroyed. Another big milestone was 1966. After purchasing Buren Watch Company, quickly after, they put to use a little gem of a movement that was patented by Buren in 1954, the micro rotor automatic movement. This enabled an automatic or self-winding watch to become thin. Didn't have a full-size rotor that took up the entire circumference of the back of the movement. It was a little tiny rotor, took about less than a third of the area of the movement, and it was mounted directly to the chassis. It wasn't mounted to the center spindle. It had its pros and cons. It enabled you to make a thinner self-winding mechanical watch, to be sure, but because the micro rotor was micro, it didn't weigh a lot. So servicing of micro rotor automatics needed to be more frequent to keep things moving freely, because that micro rotor needed nice, fresh, viscous, lubricious lubrication in order for it to do its job. But still a great movement and a significant movement. Then by 1969, all Hamilton watch production was moved to Switzerland. In 1974, they were purchased by Swatch, and to this day, they're part of the Swatch group, along with 18, 19 other brands. And here's the thing about Hamilton. They're unlike the other Swatch brands, I think, and all Swatch brands have their own individual identity. But the cool thing about Hamilton, I think their current marketing slogan is American design, Swiss precision, or something like that, which is kind of cool. And it's really kind of true to what the brand is. I said that Hamilton has always been a stylish watch, not a fashion watch. They're a style trendsetter in horology. Absolutely true. And even under the Swatch Group ownership, the Hamilton brand has always kept its very American style theme. And I'll grant you, some of American style in the last 30 years has been hideous. And there have been a lot of hideous Hamiltons in the last 30 years. And they're still kind of hanging on to that mega watch look that really bothers me. There are a couple models I would buy in a heartbeat if they were 4 or 5 millimeters smaller in diameter. But it's pretty neat that well over a century and a quarter, this American brand has kept its identity for better or for worse, through different sets of owners, through acquisitions and dismantling of corporate structure. A Hamilton's still a Hamilton, and that's pretty cool. It's really cool, actually. So let's flip the camera around and take you on a tour of the Khaki Field Mechanical. So the Hamilton ships in this rather nondescript outer sleeve. And it's wrapped in this A nicely finished cardboard outer box. Newer Hamilton font. Inside of that comes an interesting flip down front wood look box. And then you have your pillow, hang tag, all that good stuff. Let's see, this would have housed the strap that came with the watch, I guess, which I have in this Ziploc. I'll take it out because we're going to need it later. And then underneath the wood box, there's a little compartment with your paperwork, owner's manual, all that stuff. Not the greatest packaging in the world, but not horrible. So let's take the Hamilton Field Watch off the wrist and get you some basics. As we're looking at it, talk a little bit about dimensions first. The case diameter on this particular Hamilton Khaki Field Watch is 38 millimeters, which of course has made it kind of the darling of the field watch community because it's smaller than most of the garishly large Hamiltons available today. Case thickness, just 9.5 millimeters with the manual wind movement. Lug width is 20. It is a strap monster with an asterisk, a caveat. We'll get into that later. And then your lug to lug is kind of long, 46, maybe 47 millimeters on a 38 millimeter watch. So it's got quite a span across the wrist for a small diameter case. Water resistance is just 50 meters on the Khaki Field Watch mechanical. The crown is not screw down, just a push-pull crown with manual winding and hacking. I'll show you that. Just one click out, one click in, and then it manually winds. Super smooth, buttery smooth. Just a simple three-hand movement with no date. And while we're at it, let's talk about the movement because that's a little bit of a complicated assessment as well. The first of this line of Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical 38 millimeter watches came with the ETA 2801-2 manual wind movement. The later iterations, this one included, ship with the Hamilton H50 manual wind. So the H50 is an ETA 2801-2 based movement with some improvements made, and I believe they are truly improvements in a watch with this application. The regulating pins are removed. They're kind of set at the factory, and you get what you get, and what you get is really good as far as timekeeping. Little different spring in the H50, and the beat rate is reduced from 28,800 beats per hour down to 21.6. So it goes from being a 4 hertz watch to a 3 hertz watch, and then the power reserve is increased from about 42 hours on the ETA to a full 80 hours on the H50. And having had this watch for about a month, that 80 hours is absolutely real. You can wear the watch, set it in the morning, take it off at night. Don't wear it the next day, don't wear it the next day after that. Get up the next day, still running. Still running with what, 8 hours to spare or so? Yeah. Works very well. So I got no qualms with the movement whatsoever. It seems to be a great timekeeper. Mine is running 3, maybe 4 seconds a day quick. And it seems like the more I wear it, the closer to 0 it gets. It gains the most time sitting flat in the watch case. Let's talk about the case itself. It is all 316L stainless steel case back, crown, and it all has a bead blasted finish, except for some interesting mix of finishes on the case back. I'll show you that. Some nice engraving on the case back, a little bit of a bright satin, and then sort of a blasted relief. So not a super decorated case back, but a handsome Hamilton case back, I think. I think the big points about the dial, or the case rather, are its thinness, its durable finish, and its sort of usable diameter. It's not a flashy, hey, look at me diameter. It's not too small a diameter. It's just usable at 38 millimeters. A really, really nice daily wear functional tool watch. Moving over to the dial. These are made in dial colors that I know of black, green, white, and this brown. There's a reason I opted for the brown. My first instinct was to get black. And the more I looked at pictures on the internet, the more the faux patina lume bits started to bother me. So what are lumed on this watch? The triangular hour markers are all lumed, and the fill of both syringe-shaped hour and minute hands are lumed with faux patina superluminova. And then the tip of the arrow, the tip of the pointer, second hand, also has that same faux patina, fake patina, luminous material. It really shows up as faux patina on the black and the white-faced watches. I think on the brown dial, it just looks like a beige accent color, which I'm super fine with. You might lose just a little bit of legibility going from the black face to the brown, but not much. It almost looks like an anthracite in certain lights, but it's definitely brown. Legibility is just awesome. You have Arabic numerals marking each hour in large font for 1 through 12. And then the inner track is hours 13 through 24, also in Arabic. The hands reach out to just where they need to be. Notice the minute hand almost reaches out to touch the minute track, and the seconds hand absolutely runs right through the minutes/seconds markers. So no trouble being very precise in how you read this watch. Super cool. Now this is a little thing, but depending on which model you get in the Khaki line, you get a different signature on the crown. I'm a huge fan of the old, 50s era electric H, even though this is a hand winding watch. It's my favorite Hamilton H they've ever made. I just love it. Really, really dig the watch. I've had a very hard time as I get up every morning. I've had a very hard time putting another watch on my wrist. This is such a great wearer. Now, I said it was a strap monster, and it is. You're seeing the strap right now that I wear it on most days. And this is a cheapie. This is an entry-level Blue Shark original. Okay, so it's kind of stiff, crusty, ballistic nylon, but I like it because the weave almost looks like a canvas. Then you get your Blue Shark buckle. This one not removable on the original series, so it's just a stitched on buckle and it's there forever. The keepers on the Blue Shark original, not exactly at the Orca or the Alpha level, but they're still plenty presentable for a tool watch. I did turn this from a NATO to a Zulu, trimmed off the second thickness that would terminate with a keeper here, just to make it lie a little nicer on the wrist, and I think it does. I'll go ahead and show you a shot of this on the wrist so you can see that. Yeah, see, I think that works rather well. And you notice, you see a lot of strap, don't you, between the circumference of the case and where they roll over the spring bars. It's because of those long lugs. And I'm going to show you now some shots of the watch on this strap. Now this is from Barton. I think they call this their Canvas Soft line. Is that right? Very nicely made canvas strap, quick release spring bars. As you can see, the watch with that Barton strap not going underneath the back of the case and filling the space between spring bar and case circumference. There's a pretty, we call these gappy lugs, right? It looks kind of interesting. It's kind of made to go on a NATO style strap. And then the last strap that I wear this watch on quite a bit is this spring-made 20 millimeter blue NATO style strap. I wear this because I have it when the watch needs a blue accent. And I'll show you a shot of the watch on the blue spring-made strap on the wrist as well. I sort of have a love-hate relationship with the spring-made strap. We'll do a separate review on it by itself. But the blue looks pretty good with that bead-blasted case and brown dial, doesn't it? Yeah. So shall we talk? Yes, we shall talk about the watch on the factory bracelet. I'm going to do that right here with you on screen. Here's why the watch never has been on this bracelet since, since it was new. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, so there it is. Doesn't look bad, right? It's a nice pliable ballistic nylon. Keepers are leather and they are stitched. Then you get a strip of leather in your retention hole track, and then a leather tab. It's all nicely made. Doesn't look bad. I'm gonna pause for a minute while I install. Okay, there it is on wrist on the factory strap. Now I have a 7 1/8 inch wrist, and I've got this, I wear my watches pretty tight, and I've got this adjusted fairly tightly. If you were a 7 1/4, a true 7 1/4, you would use the 4th hole. I'm on the 3rd. Nice Hamilton signed buckle, by the way. But here's the area that concerns most people. Now when I install the strap through the keeper, the leather tag on the end of the strap is all the way through the keeper. If you are in the next hole, the 4th hole, it would be there. If you are on the 3rd hole or on the 5th hole, it would be there, and as you wear it, it's going to be there. So anything over a 7 1/4, that's going to be a problem. Anything smaller than 7, you're going to have way too much sticking out. Let me see if I can get that back in here. See, that's how much is sticking. That's almost too much. So if you were like a 6 3/4 inch wrist, you'd have a whole bunch of that hanging out. And because of the leather tag at the end, you cannot fold it under. It makes it too thick going back through that keeper. So it's just kind of a jacked up strap. Besides, what is a NATO strap doing with leather accessories on it anyway? How long are those leather keepers going to last if you really use this watch and strap combination hard? So this is the longest this strap has been on this watch since I've owned it while you're watching this video. And it'll probably never, ever go on again. Now, I bought this mocha colored strap for the Hamilton Field Mechanical just because I thought I needed this color and I didn't want to spend a lot of money. I end up really liking it because I think the design of the watch wants it to be thin and hug the wrist. As you saw from the wrist shots, the three straps that I showed you on the watch were a bare case back and 2 single passes, and it lies pretty well, even with the single pass thick material NATO. When you go to a full NATO with 2 thicknesses of nylon under the case back, it starts to lose that charm. So I was happy to cut up the $16 cheapie from Blue Shark. Did kind of a nice job melting that, didn't I? Yeah. And it made the package. It really did. So I'm very happy with that. This is my favorite combination for wearing the watch. Let's see if I forgot to talk with you guys about anything. I think that's about it. So my recommendation on the Field Mechanical, and guys, it's going to make your eyes bleed trying to figure out which one to buy. They make the Khaki Field in so many configurations. They make them in manual line, they make them in automatic, they make them in quartz, they make them in 38 millimeter, they make them in 42 millimeter, they make them with date, they make them with day date, they make all different dial colors. Even this particular configuration, 38 millimeter hand wind mechanical, comes with 4 dial colors and 2 different movements. Wow! My recommendation is pick the dial color you like, stick to 38 millimeter, stick to hand wind, make it as simple as you can, and I really recommend the H50 over the ETA as far as movement. I'm willing to sacrifice beat rate, I'm willing to sacrifice smoothness of sweep on the seconds hand to get that 80-hour power reserve and a little bit more robust nature for my movement in a watch that is designed to be a beater. Okay? Yeah, it's a $375 beater. But that's a Hamilton Field watch. They've been making them since World War I. And our troops have never been without them, I don't believe. It's just great that the Hamilton continues to make the Field watch and make it for consumers, not just soldiers. And thank the Lord they got that stupid khaki print off there. I mean, I understand the line is named Khaki, but it doesn't need to say Khaki on the dial. Good job, Hamilton. That's about it for this one. Thank you guys for hanging out and listening to me ramble. Grace to you and peace, my friends, from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Remember, the word is sharp. And God and this here Hamilton are always on time.